I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty for all. Good evening and welcome to our virtual forum for the Port Washington Police Commissioner. My name is Regina Gouvenier, and I am the president of the League of Women Voters of Port Washington and Manhasset. As you know, our local league and New York State League and the National League are nonpartisan. We do not support or oppose any political party or candidate. Our mission is to engage you, the voters, by giving you all the candidates for a given office a public space to answer your questions in a structured way while maintaining civil discourse. Before we begin, I want to thank all the members of our league who have teamed up to make these forums happen. Most important to our league is Judy Temkin-Jacobson, Chair of Votive Services. She works tirelessly to ensure that the needs of candidate and the public are met. Tonight, Judy will serve as our moderator. Many of you have submitted questions through the advertised bit.lys, which will remain open throughout the forums. If you have not yet submitted a question, you may do so now. Our experienced vetters for this evening are Pat McCormick and Lynn Capuano. As in-person forums, they will select the questions to forward to our moderator as the forum progresses. Our technical advisor is Judy Esterquist. Marie Bellin is the timer for this evening. If there is an issue that matters to you, please email me at president@League of Women Voters of Port Washington-Manhasset, and it is abbreviated. So you write out president @ LWV lowercase of PWM, no spaces, .org with what it is. Our league encourages new members to take leadership roles. We describe our most important priority as making democracy work. This includes all our voter services work, letting candidates speak directly to voters on issues that matter through forums like this, and through a variety of publications. We register voters at community events, and it includes educating voters and advocating with legislators on issues involving voting and elections, but also on redistricting, natural resources, and healthcare. We only take positions on issues after studying them extensively. We hope you'll consider joining the league, which is on our website, LWV of PWM. Remember, the league is not for women voters only. Before I turn over this forum to our moderator, I want to remind the candidates to keep their cameras off until the moderator asks all of them to turn the cameras on after she has read the rules. Judy Temkin-Jacobson, who, as I mentioned before, is our Voter Services Chair, will serve as our moderator for this evening. She is not from Port Washington, as our rules require. Judy will now read rules and procedures. We will then move on to opening statements and questions from the audience. Go ahead, Judy.
Yes.
Please turn your camera on.
I'm working on that, and it's saying unable to start video.
Okay, let me try it here.
Where's the problem?
Will it work?
Let's see. Yes.
Good.
Okay. It did not take a lot of time. Good. All right. As Regina just said, I am not from Port Washington, and I have no skin in this game. I will now read the procedures for candidates for virtual forums that both of our candidates have agreed to. The moderator will be a member of the League of Women Voters from outside the district. Candidates' opening statements will be given in alphabetical order. The same order will be for opening and closing statements. Each candidate will be allowed 3 minutes for an opening statement. After all the candidates have spoken, the moderator will open the meeting with questions from the audience, submitted electronically before and during the forum. Electronic addresses for questions will be publicized with the forum and available on the Port Washington-Manhasset website. The moderator will be the arbiter of whether questions are appropriate, repetitive, or abusive. Each candidate will be given 1.5 minutes to answer each question. At the moderator's discretion, the time for a response may be reduced as long as it is the same for everyone. There will be no rebuttal. Questions may be addressed to a specific candidate or to candidates in general, although all candidates will be given an opportunity to answer any question addressed to a specific individual. The moderator will attempt to rotate the order of responses for each question. A league member will act as timekeeper. Marie, you want to turn your camera on? Marie? There she is. That's our timekeeper. 1/2 minute from the end of any given time period, the timekeeper will warn the speaker by a prearranged signal. There's your signal, 30 seconds. When the time is up, and here's her stop sign, the speaker will be allowed to finish the sentence. Repeatedly speaking past the deadline may result in a candidate being muted. Candidates will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Since the purpose of this meeting is to determine the candidate's views, no substitute for an in-person speaker will be allowed to appear should a candidate be unable to attend. No written or recorded statement may be provided in lieu of active participation by a candidate. Forms require 2 or more candidates for each seat to be present. The use of props, charts, or visuals, and the display of campaign literature is prohibited. In accordance with league policy, audio or video recording by authorized members of the media will be permitted only if agreed to by all of the candidates present. The league maintains the right to record the forum and publish it on league-controlled electronic pages. No other recording will be allowed. No partial transcript or recording may be published without written permission from the league. Will the candidates please join us? And that's it. And Angela.
Angela,
Yes.
can you join us? Can you turn on your video?
All right,
No,
mine.
it says enabled. All right. Now I have.
Ah, good.
Thank you.
Ladies, my video won't come on. So you'll have audio from me. Maybe I should switch to Chrome. I can't do it right now. Okay. Start my video. I'll try that.
Oh, you're back.
Okay. All right.
There you go.
Okay. We will now begin with opening statements. And Michelle, you will give the first opening statement.
Great. Thank you, Judy. And thank you, League of Women Voters. Hello, I'm Hsiao, and I am very excited to be running to be elected commissioner for the Port Washington Police District. Thank you again to the women voters for hosting this debate, and thank you to the residents who are joining us and for your interest. I'm the mom of a first grader here, and along with my husband, Tony, we have happily made Port Washington our chosen home. We have fallen in love with Port and are very involved in so many organizations, businesses, and community groups here. As you know, a police commissioner works as an executive leader together with our police force and on behalf of the community of citizens and business owners. The commissioner's responsibilities include financial control and leadership for the budget, which is funded by our tax dollars, partnering on contract negotiations, facilities strategizing, including the headquarters building, community partnership, and so much more. I am uniquely qualified and the ideal person to be police commissioner for Port Washington. I graduated from the University of Maryland College Park, and I have 25 years of professional financial executive leadership success. This includes owning $200 to $300 million budgets, thinking creatively for revenue generation, and constantly looking for ways to maximize financial investment. In the case of the commissioner job, that means your tax dollars. I build partnerships, I think outside the box, I negotiate multi-million-dollar deals, and I think creatively for ways to generate revenue. I constantly push for results and mutually beneficial outcomes. As police commissioner, those are partnerships with community leaders, business owners, the union, government officials, and our vendors. I have a deep commitment to service with organizations here in Port as well as on broader levels. I reach across the aisles and I engage with people across all walks of life and backgrounds. As I've campaigned today, these past weeks, I've met with so many of you from both political parties, diverse professional positions, our police force, elected officials, government officials, the school district, business owners. I've heard concerns about taxes and safety and lack of transparency and information, and I am ready and able to address all of that. I will continue that level of engagement from others as I am the commissioner. I have three overarching focuses for when I'm elected. Number one, fiscal and budgetary management. Number two, transparency and communication. And number three, community engagement and partnership. With all my experience combined with my deep commitment to our community, it's clear why I'm uniquely qualified to be your Port Washington Police Commissioner. It's time for a change of perspective, new ideas, a fresh set of successful eyes to support our district and to get the results for safety, engagement, and fiscal control that our taxpayers deserve and we need. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Angela.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I want to thank all. Am I ready?
Yeah.
I'm good. Okay.
Clear.
Okay. Good evening. I want to thank all of you for participating in tonight's debate. This is an opportunity to discuss the importance of policing and keeping the overall community safe. I appreciate the League of Women Voters for hosting this critical discussion. My name is Angela Lawler Mullins, and I have proudly lived in this community for 25 years, and I have served as your police commissioner for more than a decade. No one knows this community better than I. I am a former NYPD detective where I worked on domestic terrorism, robbery squad, and the DA's office on financial crimes. My job is not done yet. I would like to inform you what has occurred in the last 12 years and my vision for the future. As the world is rapidly changing, so must our police department. I am committed to implementing police reform while acknowledging police enforcement across the board has changed. I am dedicated to community-oriented policing that ensures a strong and positive relationship between the community and the Port Washington PD. I am presently in the process of establishing a community liaison officer whose responsibilities will be to serve all of Port Washington. As a mother of two twin boys who have been educated here, nothing is more sacred than ensuring our children's safety. I initiated a program where officers visited every school, every day, so they developed a relationship with children and teachers while allowing the officers to be familiar with the layout of the school building, including the entrances, the exits, and the bathrooms. The Port Washington PD conducts active shooter drills with adjoining police departments when school is not in session. Diversity. Since 2010, I have been involved in the hiring of 54 recruits. Of the last 32 recruits, 16 were minorities. In fact, one police officer was sworn in on the Quran. I have settled 5 PBA collective bargaining contracts with little arbitration costs. I have saved the Port Washington PD and taxpayers over $100,000 a year by realigning civilian salaries, in addition to adjusting police officers' salary structures. I am dedicated to community safety. Prior to COVID, the Port Washington PD held various forums involving safety issues, scams, burglaries, traffic and pedestrian safety at the Port Washington Library, the Liddick House, Port Washington North, the Chabad, Salem School, the Landmark, the Amsterdam, the Port Washington Senior Center, in an effort to keep the public informed. While we are a community-oriented police district, we strive to do better. improving and utilizing technology to communicate better with the community using Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, while allowing prevalent information to be easily accessible. Tonight, I came here because I want your vote. The uniformed men and women of this department do a great job. They put their lives on the line, from the very basics of traffic safety to protecting our children in the schools.
Thank you.
Okay, like talking.
Now, we're ready for questions. This came up several times.
Okay.
Keep in mind that 7-Eleven's highest sales are alcohol, nicotine, and vaping products. What is your opinion about opening a 24-hour 7-Eleven across from a middle school or high school? Michelle, you'll take this first.
You're muted. Michelle, you're muted.
Thank you. So Judy, I come from a business background. I believe in the ability to conduct commerce. I believe in the ability, and I believe in businesses having the ability to expand. All that said, I think it's very important that as a community, both as residents, as well as the commission, as the police force, it's very important that we maintain a quality of life within our community. So from that standpoint, I feel really passionately that we need to be very careful about the businesses that we would be exposing our children to. So that would include, as you've said, the 7-Eleven. That would include the categories of business that they would be selling. I would be very hesitant in terms of fully supporting the 7-Eleven coming into our community like that.
Thank you. Angela?
Yes, I know with 7-Eleven, there was supposed to be a traffic feasibility study done. I know they are in the process of doing that, and then they will report back. But 7-Eleven, basically, this is like the responsibility of the town of North Hempstead for the traffic. They refer back to us for our opinions. That is a very, very busy corner. I think there's 6 different directions, there's different exits and entrances, and that would have to be addressed because the volume of traffic in the morning from 7:30 to 8:30 is extensive, and then after school. In regards to vaping and any kind of alcohol for any of the stores on Port Washington, that should be, if you know of that, you should notify the police.
Thank you. Our next question is, are you familiar with the details of the current police department budget? Would you make any changes to the priorities or dollar amounts for the budget as a whole or for specific functions? And this will go to Angela first.
Yes, okay. 85% of the budget is mandated. That's for salaries, pension, insurance, health benefits. The other 15% is cost. And I know we've been very, very conservative. Even for like our vehicles, we maintain them. We keep them for long periods of time. So we're very limited on and we're conservative. So I would just keep on doing exactly what we're doing and what we're responsible for to answer to the taxpayer.
Thank you. Yes. Michelle.
So I have extensively reviewed the budget for the past 4 years, as well as the budget that was just recently released for 2022. I will say a couple of things. First of all, as far as salaries are concerned, I feel that they are very appropriate. The salaries have increased about 9% over the past 3 years, which is really very much aligned with the average wage index by the Social Security Administration, which is 7%. So I have no issues with the wages, the salaries for our police force. Where I do have issue are what are under the bucket of expenses. Expenses have increased by 52% over the past 3 years. And there are a variety of line items that are quite honestly, from a non-commissioner, from not being in the room in terms of making the budget, are very confusing. So there was a lot of opportunity there in terms of not only understanding what is being spent on variety of expenses, but also there is a lot of opportunity there in terms of recognizing and reducing that in order to affect the full budget and then affect obviously the tax contribution by our residents.
Thank you. We'll keep right on going. Port Washington is home to a population of documented people who fear being detained by ICE, that's Immigration Enforcement. Do you think Port Police should assist ICE in apprehending undocumented people, and/or do you think this will make residents less likely to report crimes? And this time, Michelle, you're on.
Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome.
I would say, one of the things that I feel very passionately about, not only in the capacity as a commissioner, but just as a resident and as a citizen, I feel very passionately that it's important that we improve the level of community involvement and connection between the police force and our residents and our community in a way that's positive and proactive and transparent. And all of that goes to say that all of that leads up to and builds to a relationship that has nothing to do with enforcing immigration law. That is so beyond the scope of the Port Washington Police District in terms of interaction with potentially illegal or legal immigrants. I feel very, very passionately that having a better relationship and having, again, that level of transparency and proactive information and connection would serve us much better and much longer and much more impactfully than anything having to do with whether or not we coordinate and work with ICE.
Thank you. Angela.
Yes, we do not work with ICE. And I also think that with the community, that there is fear amongst immigrants to come to the police. We've had numerous cases where they're hesitant to report anything, like such, for example, domestic violence or assaults or anything. And we try to engage with them and to reassure them that they can report these crimes and not have the fear of being deported or reported to ICE. We have additional resources. We have language line. We have numerous officers that speak different languages. We refer to the Safe Center. So we try everything that we can to try to communicate to them, to reassure them that we're here to help them.
Thank you. Okay. For the police department quarters are cramped. Expanding the physical headquarter building has been discussed for years. How would you expand headquarters? Should headquarters be expanded? Would you recommend a move to a different location? And for this question, Angela, you're first.
Okay. Our building is completely outdated. From what I think it might be 60 or 70 years old. We do not have enough parking for our employees. We do not have enough parking for visitors. We don't have enough room for the locker room for our officers, for the male and the female. We have no training facility. We have no handicap accessible bathrooms. To build up on that location to go higher, it still would not solve the problem of parking. So I would say, and I'm in favor of moving to a different location.
Okay, thank you. And Michelle?
So, a couple of things. I would say that first and foremost, we need public involvement and public input in terms of in the issue of the headquarters and the facilities. I'm absolutely in agreement with Ms. Mullins that the current headquarters, the current facilities are outdated. It is not adequate, not only in terms of the safety of the community, but in the safety of the officers, the police force. However, we don't have a perspective in terms of exactly what we need. We don't have a long-term strategy of what is our 3-year plan? What is our 5-year plan? What is the 10-year plan? How fast is the population of Port Washington growing? How many more officers will we need in another 3 or 5 or 10 years? Until we know where we're building to, until we know where we're going to, we can't start to build the house yet. So we need community involvement. We need to reinstate the civilian committee that was disbanded previously. I don't know why it was disbanded. We need to get our arms around all of that. And then, of course, I completely support and completely know we need a new facility, but we have to get our arms around where we are today and where we're trying to go to before we can even discuss all the logistics and the financials and the bond that is needed. There are so many different aspects we can't even get to until we understand where we're at and where we're going to.
Thank you. Remember that I'm not wording these questions. They're coming.
That's okay.
That's okay.
It's okay.
In 2020, the Port Washington Police Commissioners purchased a residential property on Derby Road with the intention of raising it to make a parking lot. This caused a great strife in the affected neighborhood. After much public turmoil, and as I said, I didn't write this, poor communication with the public, the commissioners eventually sold the property. The situation seems to have developed because of a lack of established protocols. What do you think might be done to prevent this from occurring in the future? Michelle.
Judy, I would start this by saying, again, there is a culture and a lack of transparency and communication between the police district and the current commission with the community. And that is not acceptable. So the situation that happened on Derby Road, you know, whether you agree or disagree with what the strategy was, it was never communicated with the community. It was never communicated with the residents until it was so far gone in terms of the purchase price. And you think about the people that are on that road, and these people had their livelihood in this house, and they were getting ready to retire, and they were going to lose their property value all because of this parking lot. And it was so far gone that not only was the property purchased, it had to be resold at a loss. There was a grand total of, I believe the number was $150,000, $200,000 of money that was lost between all of the administrative costs, the lawyers, just a cavalcade. And all of that, again, goes back to the lack of community involvement, the lack of transparency. And so all of that, again, goes back to what I keep honing on is there has got to be community involvement, and we cannot have that kind of scenario ever again.
Thank you. Angela.
Yes, concerning Derby Road, we've had numerous studies done since I've been there and even before. And one of the studies recommended that if the property of 2 and 4 Derby ever came up, that we would purchase that property. That's what they recommended. And Commissioner Duncan was very astute about that, about purchasing anything that would become available. But what happened was when we purchased Derby Road, we didn't purchase Derby Road to put a parking lot in there. We purchased the property. We were working with an architectural firm, which we had them look at the property. We decided to go up and maybe go back. We had different options. We have a severe parking issue. We didn't know whether to put the parking on the other side, to move towards the cemetery, to move further. We tried everything because the public wants us to stay there. When you come in, you see the entrance, you see that blue sign telling you the police department is there. And no, the money wasn't $150,000 to $200,000. There was a loss, but it was nowhere near that amount because we purchased the house for $780,000, and then we sold it. Yes, we paid taxes, and I have all the figures, and then we sold the house again for a lesser amount, but it wasn't $150,000 loss.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Here's another question that this came up a number of times. Do you know how many or what percentage of the current police staff in the office or on the beat are vaccinated? Would you require that all be vaccinated? Would you require regular testing? Would you allow exemptions for religion, health reasons, etc.? And first for this one is Angela.
Vaccinations, I don't know if that falls under the HIPAA rule. I know that we have a policy that where if an officer is sick, he notifies our assistant chief and tells them, and then we follow the procedure, the New York State procedure where, you have to stay isolated. That's what we follow. But right now we don't have a mandate for the officers to have a vaccination.
Your time isn't up. Would you support?
Not right now.
Okay, thank you. Michelle.
Judy, my understanding, I've, as I mentioned in my opening statement, I've talked to a lot of people over the past couple of months as it relates to this commissioner position. My understanding is that the vaccination rate, or just generally anecdotally, the vaccination rate for the police force is aligned with the rates within Nassau County. So I don't really see there being a significant issue in terms of either mandating the vaccinations or anything beyond that. So I would say at this point that that's not something that I would be pushing for.
Okay, thank you. Next question. The annual $25 million department budget is announced and passed all at the same meeting. Again, I don't know if this is correct or not, with no feedback period for input from anyone in the public. Do you consider this an optimal arrangement, or would you support making changes to this aspect of the budget process? And Michelle, you're first.
So I would say that, just as there is in business, there are, in corporate America, but in my own background there are absolutely conversations and strategies that need to happen behind closed doors. And I would absolutely say that that is the case here with the budget, the police district budget. That said, there is absolutely opportunity in terms of conversation and basically negotiation, amongst residents and amongst the different parties that I feel very passionately should be out in the open, that should be a dialogue. Again, I go back to this idea of these civilian committees. There are incredibly talented people in our community, finance individuals, Wall Street, CPAs, just people that are passionate about our community, that I would want to and welcome their input and their conversation in terms of the budgetary process. The budgetary process is not one that should be a quick fix of, make every line item up 2%. It needs to be very thoughtful. There are so many opportunities in terms of, cutting individual line items. There's opportunities for revenue building. So I think that there's a lot of place for us to have conversation, transparency, and real creative thinking from a financial standpoint.
Thank you. Perfect timing. Angela.
Okay. As long as I've been here, we've had budget hearings. So that's a false statement. And the budget hearings are posted. They're announced at the meetings, and no disrespect, Michelle, you didn't attend any budget hearings, and they're open to the public. So the public is encouraged and welcome to attend. So they're not behind closed doors. Everything is open. I received complaints about myself that I'm conservative, that I'm frugal, that I think the money's in my handbag. So I really try to be very conservative on the other 15%, that I can do something with the budget. But we call it taking our show on the road. We went to the Lydic House, we went to Chabad, we went to the Port Washington Village North, because we really don't have many people that come to the meetings. So that's why we're going to try to reach out. Eventually, our meetings will probably be on YouTube. That's probably just a matter of time. So I know people are hesitant to come out because of COVID, but we really haven't had much public participation even before COVID, but we're not giving up. We're going to go out and reach you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well. Oh, no, this is the next
No, I
question.
already did.
Yeah, okay. And
I'm happy to do a rebuttal.
Okay.
thank you. No. Diversity of opinions, race, and background, more broadly, are important when making decisions that affect a community. What are your thoughts on the current makeup of the police force from a diversity perspective? Do you see a need for improvement? And if so, what are some specific actions you would push for that? And you're first.
Okay. All right. I think since 2018, since I've been there since 2010, I've been involved in the hiring of 54 recruits. I think it was in 2018, we hired 32, between 2018 and now, 16 of the 32 were minorities. And by minorities, I mean, including different genders. We've had females, we've had different nationalities. So that's 40%. Can we do better? Yes, we can. We've also gone to the Lytic House. We've gone to the Community Chess Center. We met with community residents to try to encourage the young people to take the test. We're always looking for a more diverse police force to relate to our diverse community.
Thank you. And Hsiao?
Thank you. So currently, with the entire police force, around 15% of the entire force is non-white, non-male, of a variety of different, ethnic or religious backgrounds. So as Ms. Mullins referred to, I believe that they've done a very good job of recruiting diversity. I would argue, however, that there's still so much more opportunity for improvement here. One of the things I think is it's not just about the numbers. It's about how we're recruiting. It's about where we're recruiting from. It's about how we're engaging, how we're retaining, and how we are working with people once they're on the job. Because a lot of times what happens is I think to my own background and when I've recruited people, in many cases, what happens is you might recruit an incredible individual, but then once they're on the job, they're not being supported and the morale is horrible, and they don't feel like this is a place that welcomes them. And so I would argue that it's not just about recruiting diversity, it's about retaining it, it's about engaging it, and it's also melding that diversity between the force and the community. We need to do a better job of interacting in a diverse way, diverse backgrounds, diverse ways of thinking, diversity in all ways.
Thank you. Okay. Now, this next question was directed to Angela, but you can also answer it for sure. Based on recent decisions at the commissioner meetings, it seems like the current plan is to buy a new plot of land and build a brand new headquarters of approximately 20 to 25,000 square feet at a cost of tens of millions of dollars. Considering you have been trying to do this for many years now without any progress, can you please explain why this solution is preferable to building two smaller buildings in two different locations or renovating the current structure?
Okay, we can't renovate the current structure. It's not possible. Plus, if we, for some reason, magical reason, if we could, we'd have to leave and rent someplace for that time period. I know there were discussions about property across the street. The fire department said they were going to expand their property, and then they said that they would sell to us. And then they said they had it appraised. So that option is not available. We did look at a property. We are currently looking at a property. We hired a construction attorney, and we are having it appraised, and we're not having it appraised by any real estate agents that reside in Port Washington, so that there's no conflict of interest. And plus, members of the public who sit in the audience have real estate licenses. So we don't want anything to taint or communicate with the owners of this property where we're going to be bidding against ourselves. So right now we're having an environmental study done on this area.
Thank you. Would you like to answer that?
Sure. I would just, two things very quickly. One is, it's very important, this whole conversation in terms of the headquarters and the facilities, it's very important that we have complete agreement and a complete alignment with the villages. So that's the village of Port North and the village of Baxter Estates. If we don't have their complete agreement and complete alignment with what the strategy is, then we will end up having a situation which many people are aware of, which happened in Old Brookville recently, where villages backed out and their facility conversation just fell apart completely. So that would be number one, is I want to make sure that the villages are in complete alignment, everyone's completely on board. And then the second question is, well, yes, we need to be doing assessments and we need to understand what this potential property is about. But also, we need to really understand, what is the financial investment here? There is absolutely going to need to be a bond. We don't know what the amount is on the bond. We don't know what kind of an impact that is to the community, to the citizens, to the taxpayers. So I would argue that we need to make sure that we're all on board in terms of the financial situation, and make sure we're all aligned on that before there's any kind of serious discussion in terms of the specific properties.
Thank you. Now, this one was addressed to you, Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
Without police experience, do you think you would be an effective police commissioner, and what in your background will help you?
Mm-hmm. So first and foremost, I would say, we have an incredible police force. Our chief and his assistant chief and his deputy chief combined have nearly 100 years of police and law enforcement experience. One of our current commissioners, a midterm commissioner, retired from the Port Police Force as well, with 40 years of experience. So an incredible group of people that work along with the commissioner. My background is all about financial and executive leadership. My background is based in 25 years in corporate America. I've worked as a vice president and a senior vice president, reporting to the CEO of organization, full P&L ownership and budgetary responsibility for $200, $300 million budgets. That's what I know. I know how to drive financials. I know how to generate revenue. I know how to build partnerships. And all of that, quite honestly, is what the commissioner's job is about. The commissioner's job is not, for lack of a better word, like to be the head police officer. That's not what it is. The commissioner's job is executive leadership, financial control, communication with the community, transparency, and all of that is 100% in my wheelhouse.
Thank you. And Angela, as a corollary, how do you think your experience contributes to being a successful police commissioner?
Well, I think before I was a police officer, I was in finance for 7 years. I've done financial, I've done contract negotiations, I've done budgeting. And then I think as a detective, I think I have the insight to understand how the department runs and how it should function, or the different issues that come up and how they would be addressed.
Thank you. Next question. Police commissioners come into office with a set of ideas, possibly including implementing big changes and reforms and improving employee morale. What are your ideas in this area? And Michelle, you're first.
Boy, that's a big question. That's pretty all encompassing. You know, I would say first and foremost, you know, the role of the commissioner, again, I keep going back to this, the role of the commissioner is to work on behalf of two groups of people, the residents, the taxpayers, and the police force. So it's vitally important, not only in the role of the commissioner, but for the good of the community, that both groups of people feel engaged, feel heard, feel responded to. So, you know, it's really a two-pronged approach, which is how do you engage with, and how do you connect with, and how do you communicate with the public? There are so many opportunities in terms of how the communication not being there and the transparency not being there, and hearkening back to, well, it was posted on the website, or it was, you know, it was in the paper. That's not how you communicate. So I would say number one is the community, but in terms of the police force, it's really important that we are focused on their feelings of engagement, their feelings of a high feeling of morale, and that starts from the top, and the top are the commissioners. And that is our responsibility, to make them feel heard and make them feel that they're valued in such an important way.
Okay, Angela?
Can you just repeat that question again?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Many police commissioners come into office with a set of ideas, possibly including implementing big changes and reforms and improving employee morale. What are your ideas in this area?
Okay, when I first came in 2010, I had discussed with the chief having an awards ceremony for the officers, and I was informed that there was no awards ceremony for the prior 7 years. So I implemented an awards ceremony where the officers were acknowledged, and they wear bars on top of their shields for different incidents that they responded to. I always acknowledge good work, and I encourage all the officers for any training, because we're all about training in Port Washington. Any training, any classes that they want, to let the chief's office know, because training is everything and it's constantly changing. And I also tell the officers, we have a hallway with all the chiefs coming down. They too can be a chief someday. And I tell them to strive to do better, education, courses, involvement. So that's how I try to keep morale.
Thank you. Michelle?
Yes,
I
already did.
She right did.
Oh, I did it again. Awfully sorry. Okay. Here comes the next question. What are some specific examples of community transparency and communication that you have led as a commissioner, or that you would lead if elected? And that's Michelle, you're first.
Great. You know, it's really important in the role of the commissioners that we are proactively communicating, sharing our best practices, sharing what we're doing, and doing it at so many touch points. So I'll just give you one example of a place that I think is a huge opportunity, and that's communicating via social media. Currently, so just one tiny example, on Tuesday, there was a fantastic promotion event hosted and honored two gentlemen that were promoted within the police force. I attended that. It was a fantastic event, but that was never shared with the public. And what a miss for the police department, for the police district, to not share with the public about the promotion, to not share about the accomplishments of our officers. The Facebook page for the police district has roughly 115 followers and has had a grand total of 3 posts in the past 12 months. If you look at that in comparison to the Port Washington Fire Department, there's over 4,000 followers, and they post almost every single day about their accomplishments, about what they've done for the community, about events coming up, what they're doing with to help and support our community. There are so many ways to share and to push out into the community and to our citizens that the opportunities are limitless.
Thank you. Angela.
Okay, for the promotions for the officers, we had them at the firehouse. We did announce that the promotions were going to be promoted at the last meeting. The chief and I had a meeting the other day with a public relations firm that we're going to bring back to the other commissioners to discuss developing Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, for different events that happen, like if there's construction or there's an accident or there's a fire or something, that you'll be immediately notified. This we can improve on, definitely.
Thank you. Now, what is your view of the current levels of pay for members of the police department? Angela.
Okay, we just settled a 3-year contract, collective bargaining agreement. It was the first time in 40 years that we did not use lawyers. When it comes to the rates for the officers, if you don't come to an agreement with the officers, it goes to arbitration, and arbitration can be very, very expensive. And what the arbitrator does is he studies the rates that are the adjoining, like Lake Success or Garden City, and they average it. But usually the mediator will only give you a 2-year contract agreement. So we study what the current rates are, and that's what we did, and that's how we solved. Now, before I came here, the other commissioners, before in 2010, they spent $122,000 on arbitration costs. When I wanted to sit at the table to represent the taxpayers, the other 2 commissioners voted against me for sitting at the table. I persisted because I represent the taxpayer and I should know where the money goes. So I just want to explain, that's how we get our salaries, and we study what the current rates are and the current issues are.
Thank you. Michelle.
So I would say a couple of things. One, as far as her comment about not having to go to arbitration, this was the first time that this happened. She's been in her role for over 10 years. So I would argue that, in fact, the presence and the impact of the other 2 commissioners would be more of the role of what influenced them being able to avoid arbitration. As far as the salaries themselves are concerned, again, I spoke to it a little bit earlier. We are very aligned. Again, the salaries have increased around 9% over the past 3 to 4 years, and that's completely aligned with the Social Security Administration increases for the average wage index. And it's really important that, and we of course have to constantly evaluate and reevaluate and make sure that we're competitive, because if we're not competitive, we are not going to attract the top talent to our police district. So it's very important that we implement some of the same best practices that I've been a part of in terms of recruiting and retaining top talent in corporate America, that we apply those same principles in terms of salary review and salary leveling here within the police district.
Thank you. Now you're first on this question, Michelle.
Okay.
There is general concern about how police handle domestic disturbances with citizens who have psychological problems. Are there any programs that you would introduce to address them?
This is definitely an important question, and this is definitely important and a very important issue. I'm very fortunate to have several people in my family and in our friend circle that are current law enforcement, both at the NYPD level as well as in a variety of other police districts. I personally know several that have unfortunately been injured, reporting to domestic violent calls. So this is absolutely important that we have, that we are supporting and protecting our police officers. I completely agree. This again goes back to that idea of building the community conversation and building that community relationship in a way that is proactive, that is identifying and helping people that potentially might have mental issues, people that might be in situations where there is domestic violence ongoing that is impacting women and children. So I would absolutely support working with organizations, working in partnership with organizations that would help and support people that would potentially be victims of domestic violence, childhood violence, or mental issue.
Thank you. Angela?
Okay, in domestic violence, there's a mandate where certain things that occur, we must arrest the police. So I think the problem with mental people who don't take their medicine or have mental problems, I think that our judges, our prosecutors, we have to have better services that are available for people who have these issues, so that they can be advised what their options are on how they could function better without the violence. And I know that we do a lot of work with the Safe Center. So I think that the mental problems have to be addressed, but I think the mental problems have to be addressed. That's like, it's not just New York. Unfortunately, we don't have facilities for them. And that's what we need to do. We need to have more of an outreach to help the people who can't help themselves.
Thank you. What is your position on body cams for the police? And Angela, you're first.
I think, we discussed this before, and I think the last 18 years, we've only had one incident of anything where there's been an accusation. So at the present time, we don't see a need for body cam, and we're very fortunate, even before the reform came, that Port Washington had such a good relationship with the community. So at the present time, I don't feel it's necessary.
All right, there was a little more to that question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Would you give incentives to officers to use them?
Well, I know that there's a cost for the body cameras. I don't know how many millions of dollars there are involved with that. And that would probably be a collective bargaining agreement that would have to be discussed with the union. I know that would have to be discussed with the union. So before anything could be done. But at the present time, I don't see a need for the cameras.
Okay, thank you. How about you, Michelle?
So I keep going back to starting every single significant shift in terms of how we would police and how we work with the community with conversations. So first and foremost, I would want to have a conversation. I would want to have a dialogue, with police officers currently, with the union, with, of course, the commissioners, and with the community. I would like to understand, does the community at large, both of our citizens and of our force, how do they feel about it? Just because we have not had an issue here in Port Washington that would have been impacted by having body cams does not mean that could not be something that could happen in the near future. As we all know, the general tone and the challenges of communities have changed dramatically over the past, certainly over the past 10 years, but dramatically over the past 2 years. So I would absolutely feel that this is something that would be a fantastic conversation. And I would really want to start there. But I would absolutely not base my decision on how things have or have not gone down, so to speak, in the past, 2, 5, 10 years.
Thank you. Now, given the problem of institutional racism in policing, what reforms would you institute to promote racially just and fair practices in the Port Washington Police Department? And Hsiao, you're first.
Thank you. It starts with the fact that whether it be in a business, whether it be at a school, or whether it be in the police force, it is important that the people that are in leadership positions look like the people that they are working on behalf. So that means if you are, the racial mix, the gender mix, it needs to reflect the people that they are supporting. So I would argue that first and foremost, again, we need to continue to support and drive the initiatives that will support the diversity, diverse hiring, diverse engagement within our police force. That is absolutely essential, and that is going to go a long way in terms of an increasingly diverse community here in Port, here in Nassau County, here on Long Island. We need to continue to push for that, because that's the only way that we are going to have our community that's going to feel supported across all races. So that's the fundamental, and that's really the base for all of the conversations.
Thank you. Angela?
Okay, I think it was in 2015, we implemented diversity training, and it was an 8-hour session. We had diversity training for all employees, civilians, and commissioners. I know in the reform, there is diversity training currently. In regards to our officers and our recruits, our list comes from Nassau County, and I know they are updating, or they're changing the way that how they, the requirements for passing for recruits. So we look forward towards that, and we look forward to the next test. And we encourage everyone to take it.
Thank you. Now, again, this is just a question that came in, and I didn't word it. And do you believe if one of the commissioners was under investigation from the district attorney's office, I don't even know if that's true, but this is the question, that the public should be made aware of that? Should the commissioner continue to vote and collect a salary? And the first one for this is to answer is you, Angela.
Okay, if there's an investigation by the Nassau County or whatever district attorney, that's a confidential investigation, and that's confidential. So I would leave it like that, and I don't know if anything is active or closed or anything like that, but investigations are confidential. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. And Hsiao.
I would say I don't know anything about the issue that is being referred to within the question. So I would rather not respond, again, not knowing any of the facts.
Thank you. That's a good response too. And all right, we're going to have 2 more questions, and then we'll start with closing statements. So, let's see. Looking for a good one. What are specific ways in which the Port Washington Police Department can do better in engaging community members besides requesting that the public attend Port Washington PD meetings? And the first one to answer this is Hsiao.
I love this question. I could honestly, I could speak to this for about 10 minutes instead of a minute and a half. I go back to, here's the thing, I think about in business and in my background, You go to the customer where she or he wants to be spoken to and how they want to be spoken to. You don't determine how the customer interacts with you. You let her or him determine how they want to interact with you. And what I mean by that is, by posting that there's meetings and a buried link at the bottom of the web page that was posted 9 months ago and never re-engaging with the public beyond that, not engaging on social media, not having conversations in a constant and ongoing and transparent way, is quite honestly, it's kind of shame on them. I really feel like that. So, there's so much opportunity, and I'm really very excited to get into this. When I'm elected, I have so many great ideas, and I'm really looking forward to working with the community as well as the police force, and how we can really, I'm just so excited about what is laying ahead of us.
Thank you. And Angela.
Okay, like I said before, we've been at the Lydic House, we've been at Port Washington, we've been at the Chabad, which is in Manor Haven, we've been at the Senior Citizen Center, we've been at the library for senior scams, we discussed traffic and safety. Right now, we're implementing a community liaison, which will be involved with the PYA, the PAL, the church, the synagogues, other community meetings, not just involved here in Port Washington, but other meetings that are in other communities like Nassau County. We are also looking at getting involved with a night out, which is held in August with other police departments too, where they have a night out with the police officers. And also we're looking at doing coffee with a cop.
Okay, this will be our concluding question. If you are elected, what are you planning to do to improve policing in Port Washington? Very general, but we'd all like to know. Thank you. And Angela, you're first.
Okay. I'd like to improve the community relations. We have a POP unit. I'd like them to be a little bit more involved, which they are. Our POP sergeant is phenomenal. He's involved with different situations or issues that you read about on Facebook, Port Washington Moms, whether it's traffic, pedestrians, school, stop signs. So I like to be a little bit more engaged, but I think by using technology, that'll enable us to reach out more than what we've been doing so far. But that's my main concern, is community policing and police reform.
Thank you. Michelle.
So again, going back to the community connection, communicating and engaging, there's just a laundry list of opportunities here. And quite honestly, some of the ideas that I'm speaking to and some of the ideas that my opponent is referring to are ones that are not new. These have been around for for decades. For example, I brought up at a meeting a couple of weeks ago that I attended, why are they not streaming the meetings? Why are the meetings not live? The school board, a variety of other entities have been doing this for many years. Why is the idea of social media and connecting with the public and informing the public and proactively communicating, why is that a new idea? These are not new ideas. So, you need someone that's going to come in and that's going to have new ideas and a fresh perspective. And that's to benefit the police force, the police district, as well as the community. So that's very important, very important. We need a diversity of experience, a diversity of perspectives, and that's really what we need here within this position.
Thank you.
Rebuttal, right?
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I understand the feeling.
No problem.
It's okay. So now we begin with closing statements, and you each have 2 minutes to tell everybody why they should vote for you. good luck. Michelle, you're first.
First, I want to again thank the League of Women Voters for hosting and moderating the debate, as well as a big thank you for the residents who attended and who submitted such thoughtful and such important questions. You've heard a lot tonight. I'm sure some of what you heard wasn't new. It's included in my informational website, my public Facebook page, and when I might have had the pleasure of meeting you during my campaigning. But I'm confident that you've come away from this debate with new information on the specifics of my improvement plans as police commissioner. The plans will impact so many aspects of your lives, your safety, your knowledge and level of information, your ability to be heard and drive initiatives you see as important, and your money and your tax dollars. I'm going to be brief in the interest of your valuable time. I repeat that I am uniquely qualified and the ideal person to be police commissioner for Port Washington. I am the new perspective for police commissioner, and I bring a diversity of experience and background that is so very needed. I have an open mind and fresh eyes for change to support the needs of our residents and the police force alike. I have a 25-year proven track record of leading organizations in financial success. I'm a successful driver of collaborative and results-oriented partnerships. And I'm a proud Port Washington community volunteer and school district parent. I will prioritize fiscal and budgetary management of your taxes, transparency, honesty, and communication of what the commission and police force are doing, and community engagement and partnership. I and the two midterm commissioners will work with you and with you, our residents, and our police force alike. Again, I've heard your concerns over taxes, safety, lack of transparency and information, and I am ready and supremely able to address them all. And I will prioritize this high level of engagement, partnership, and learning from others as your commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. And Angela?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, tonight you have the opportunity to meet the two candidates seeking the position of police commissioner. Since elected in 2010, I've been a tireless advocate for the Port Washington taxpayers, and I have the record to prove it. I remain committed to continuing to provide police services with integrity and financial responsibility. A key focus of mine is on community-oriented policing that ensures a strong and positive working relationship between the community and the police department. I established a community liaison unit and outreach program to determine how the department can better serve our community. I negotiated 5 PBA contracts without costly arbitration that have and will continue to reduce costs to the taxpayers. The last 5 years, the budget has been kept below the cap. I am dedicated to resident safety, traffic, pedestrian safety, and emergency preparedness. As commissioner, I have hired more women and minorities than any other time in a 100-year history of the district, including one recruit who was sworn in on the Quran. All officers have the most up-to-date training, including active shooters in our school, as well as Narcan training to prevent opioid overdoses, taser training, and diversity training for the entire staff, including civilians. We establish and maintain the highest level of professionalism and service in our offices through consistent training, mentoring, and effective supervision. You have the right to feel safe in your neighborhood, your home, your business, and your place of worship. The Port Washington PD is clearly focused on protecting and serving the community, but we are stronger and much more effective from listening to the residents to better understand their needs. I thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this event, and I would like to thank all of you who attended tonight, and I wish you all a great holiday season. Thank you and good night.
And thank you to both of you for a very
Thank you.
Thank you.
informative debate. I appreciate it, and I'm sure that our audience also appreciates it.
Yes.
Very nice job. So now we will say goodbye, and I will.
Goodbye.
You can each say goodbye and then turn.
Good night,
around
Michelle.
and leave.
Thanks, Angela. Thank you. Thank you, Judy. Marie.
Thank you, ladies. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
So
Okay.
just the meeting, there's a little leave meeting symbol.
Got it. Thank you, ladies. Happy holidays.
Same to you. Voting will be December 14th at the Polish American Hall from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. So please do go and vote. It's important for your community. And thank you for participating. Now, tomorrow, the video will be available to everyone. Apparently, there was some confusion at the beginning. The live stream was under the wrong name. You know, we're novices at some of this technical stuff. But tomorrow, it will be available under the correct name, Police Commissioner for Port Washington. And I hope that everybody will be able to access it. Now, I'm going to say goodnight, and we appreciate your attendance. Good night.